my name's Elijah, and welcome to my podcast, Songwriting for Songwriters. This week, my guest is Cat Pierce. Cat is one half of the band The Pierces, along with her sister Allison, and she's also one of my favourite songwriters. We spoke about her unique songwriting process, her influences, her journey as a songwriter, her solo career, her love of tarot and the esoteric, and much, much more. So please enjoy this podcast with Cat Pierce, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Today, my special guest on my podcast, Songwriting for Songwriters, is Cat Pierce. Cat, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. What's happening in your world at the moment?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a baby.
Wow.
So I'm not sleeping a lot.
Okay. How old's your baby?
She's 15 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but we co-sleep, so it's still kind of wild.
Yeah. We co-slept for, I think, nearly 3 years, and it
Oh
was
wow.
quite a long time, but it
Yeah,
was good results
I
from
can
it.
see that happening to us.
Yeah. So you got a
Yeah,
new baby. That's amazing. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So that's happening, and we're um trying to buy a house, and I started a new business, so lots going on, but
What's
it's
going
all
on?
wonderful. It's all fun. It's just a lot.
Fantastic. Yep. Well, that's good. Lots of different projects. That's good.
Yeah.
So, first question for you: when did you start writing songs in your life?
Well, my dad is a musician, and so he kind of introduced the concept of writing songs to us very early.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think at like 8 or 9, I was writing songs. Just
Awesome.
I don't know how good they were, but just when your parents say, "Hey, this is possible and you can do this too,"
Yeah.
it just becomes a very natural thing. And so we always kind of that's always been like in our lives, either singing or writing, or our mom's a painter, and so we
Cool.
just have been surrounded by creativity our whole lives.
That's amazing. Love that. Yeah. That's. My dad had a good acoustic guitar kicking around and was a songwriter, so it was just one of those things where you're naturally gonna. That's gonna
Yeah,
happen, right? It's gonna happen.
yeah. Unless you rebel and become a lawyer or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um. So, did you and Alison always like play and sing together? Was that a thing that you always did?
Yeah, that's what we started doing that early on. We would, our dad would play guitar, we would sing together. I remember when we kind of first realized we could harmonize. I think I
Yeah.
was probably like 10 and she was 12, maybe a little younger than that. And that was just such a cool thing to discover, doing
Yeah.
harmony. And that made it really fun for us to sing together. And yeah, we were just always really encouraged by our dad and people around us. And it's just always been something we've done.
It does seem to be like when you hear those stories about artists, actors, or songwriters being supported by the parents, it's always quite a sweet thing to hear, really, because many of us don't have the same kind of support there that it sounds like you and
Yeah.
Alison had, which is really special, I think.
It's so special. And Allison and I always say, like, we're good singers, but we're not like Adele, so we're like, it very easily could have just been like, I think a lot of people can sing that just don't really do that much with it because it's not such a open concept in their family. So
Sure.
that's never nurtured. Like my husband, he'll sing around the house and I'm like, "You have a really good voice." And he's like, "I do." Like it never even occurred to him.
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Yeah, we should make a record."
that's awesome. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
was there a point where you decided to kind of take that thing, which was a loving thing that your family all did, and you encouraged to make art and sing? When did that become like something that you decided to kind of really dedicate your life to? Was there a turning point or a sort of decision to do that?
I think, it kind of starts with people around you saying like, "You should do something with this," or, because it's something we always did
Yeah,
just for fun. And then people come in and say, "You should try to do this professionally."
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, that concept was kind of introduced early as well. And we had a guy that we would play with around town and little coffee shops and stuff. And he made a demo tape for us
Okay.
and sent it in the mail. This was like before the internet. he sent it in the mail to a few labels, and it happened to land on the desk of an A&R guy who had just started his job. So he
Oh,
was like
cool.
still, yeah, he was still kind of checking out demo tapes in the mail, which a lot of them, wouldn't do. And he contacted us, and that's how we got our first deal, just from a little tape that we
Amazing.
sent.
How old are you when that happened?
I think I was 17 or 18
Okay,
when it
cool. So,
when it started, but we didn't really like we kind of got shuffled around to like they were trying to find the right label for us, and I think it we didn't put out our first album until I was 20 or 21.
okay.
Um, yeah.
So a lot of those songs on that first album, were they kind of with you for a while before you made the album? They're already kind of written, and did you have that sort of prepared?
Yeah, I mean, it was so long ago, I don't fully remember. But yeah, I think we had written most of it, and I think there was a process of like getting like the last few songs together for the album, and that they knew we were like young and green, so there was a little bit of like time to develop it.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
So I first came across your music when you both appeared on Later with Jules in the UK, and you played
Hmm.
Love You More.
Huh?
And I was sitting down watching it and just immediately was like, Jesus Christ, that song is amazing. And it's like kind of became my favorite song straight away. And
Thank
then
you.
brought you and I and heard We Are Stars and just went, "Whew." So I was kind of like, I suppose, like as a music fan or as a songwriter as well, there's those moments where a band or a songwriter come along and it sort of, for whatever reason, whether it confirms your own kind of take on the world or your own songwriting, or it's just
Mm-hmm.
they just hit you. And so your writing, Alison, yours writing just kind of was one of those moments where it's just instant, like, I love this straight away. And it's kind
Oh,
of
thank you.
ticking all the boxes of everything I look for and kind of, in terms of lyrics, music, melody. So I was just wondering if as a sort of fan question, in terms of like those two songs, Love You More and We Are Stars, which are literally like two of my kind of top 10 sort of records really. Is there like
Wow.
was there kind of like a story behind those songs, like something which, because in your melodies there's like, for me, there's like really, it's quite a lot of yearning in the sound of your
Mhm,
voice singing your melodies, and
mhm,
a kind of, I feel like there's sort of really mysterious melodies that as you sing them they kind of go on these little journeys and you end up going exactly where you needed to go as a listener, but like the
mhm.
journey was quite mysterious. So
Oh,
I'm just
cool.
interested in those like two particularly, like if there was any particular stories behind it or in the creation of them.
Oh yeah. There's always a story.
Yeah.
Um, Love You More, I was in this really tumultuous relationship, and it was just he was the type of guy that was he kind of had two he almost had a split personality,
Okay.
honestly. He was either like the dream guy, so kind, wonderful, amazing, or just kind of a nightmare. And it was such a shocking, twist every time it would happen. And it kept me in this loop for a long time because the
Right.
good was so good and
Yeah.
then the bad would be so terrible. But then he'd always come back around and be amazing. And I just thought if I can just love him enough, then it'll be okay, it'll all come around eventually. And
Sure.
I tried that for, a couple of years.
Okay. Yeah.
And eventually I was like, I cannot love this person anymore. I mean, this is all I've got to give and it's not changing.
Sure.
And it was just so painful because I was truly in love with with him, and but I could the bad was too bad, so I had to go. And then We Are Stars, I wrote this is funny. I think I had just gone to like the Natural History Museum. And
Oh,
I was
really?
and I was kind of I had learned some stuff about like space and stars, and I was just kind of fascinated by it. And I saw like written on a plaque, we're made of stars, we're made of stardust. And I was just so, I mean, I had known that and had heard that a million times, but just to like be in this museum and see like like a chunk of a star that landed on, Earth, and like we're part of that and it's all connected. And so that inspired that song, but it was also connected to a romance, of course,
Sure.
it
Sure.
always
Sure.
is.
Sure. But I mean, that beautifully is such a great song, and but just
Yeah.
that chorus of like, I just want to be loved by you. Like, it's just such a universal kind of message, obviously, but it's so simple, but kind of so powerful. One of the things I love about your songwriting is you can write a chorus, my word. And it's like, it's in this day and age on the radio, it's like melody and chorus doesn't seem to have the same sort of, isn't valued as much as it used to be, I don't think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, people have even been like, maybe don't make the chorus so good. And I'm like,
which is
like,
like,
you just make it all more chill. And I'm like, okay.
yeah, it's an odd one because it's like, I was speaking to somebody the other day that's saying if you didn't have a good melody, it would never get on radio. And, certainly from where I'm coming from as a writer, and I think where you're coming from and Alison, you can hear there's so much great melody and it's, so it's like a big chorus, a kind of important thing to do for you.
I mean, I like a big chorus. It's fun to go there. I also, like a subtle chorus, but I
Yeah.
think because a lot of our songs are about yearning and longing, that it just
Yeah.
kind of naturally
Yeah.
expands to that place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So your process for songwriting, how do you kind of go about writing a song? Is there a kind of technique or habit that you kind of find yourself um doing more than often than not?
Um, I think, mostly Allison and I both write when we're just feeling inspired, but
Yeah,
there have been times where I do it like an exercise, let's just like sit down and see if the muse arrives. And
yeah, yeah.
um, I can do both of those. I can do both of those things. Allison has to be inspired. She's like,
Okay.
I'm not writing a song unless it just flows out of me. And I kind of those of course are amazing when that happens, but I also like kind of the puzzle
Yeah,
and the chasing of the
yeah,
let's find it. Like let's go after it.
yeah.
So there's not really one method that I do. But I was thinking last night how I haven't written in a while because of the new baby.
Sure.
Um, but I was remembering that when I lived in New York and when I would walk around New York, I would write a lot of songs and the songs would kind of match my, the
Pace.
cadence of my footsteps. So I was like, I need to start, taking some neighborhood walks and working on some new material.
That's cool. So are we like currently kind of we don't have any new songs at the moment. We just obviously everything's baby focused and
Yeah, I mean the baby is mostly the focus, but I have some songs that I wrote before baby, and Allison and I have some stuff that we were kind of working on before baby that we're about to kind of go back to
cool.
and get it done.
So I've really enjoyed like because unless I've not been looking in the right place, you haven't released a solo album yet, have you? Or I've seen all this.
No, I just started releasing singles. So, like we
Yeah.
we left our record label when Allison and I split, and I kind of just didn't want a label, a manager, a sibling, anybody, telling me what it should be. And I was like, I'm just gonna do this on my own.
Yeah.
And so I would kind of just make songs here and there and just release them as they came out. But I do get a lot of like messages like, why didn't you release an album? And I'm like, just go on Spotify or
Yeah.
Apple Music and listen to
It's
them
all
in a
there.
row.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, and I've been loving it. There's so many great. I quite like that idea of we've done it with our band where we just released a string of singles leading up to an album. But it was
Yeah.
nice actually to see to have all these singles from across the
Uh-huh.
last 4 or 5 years and just
Yeah.
get here where you're at. So is there going to be a solo album?
Well, I don't know. I think, I do have a song that I did on my own that's coming out soon. I think I'm gonna release it on Mother's Day because
Oh, cool.
it's about a song I wrote for my baby long before she arrived, like
Sweet.
long before she was even a twinkle in my eye. I
Nice.
kind of I was having trouble getting pregnant, and so I guess she was a twinkle in my eye. And I kind of wrote it to call her in,
Cool.
and it was just kind of like a little love song to this child I couldn't wait to meet.
That's amazing.
And I think I'm gonna put it out on Mother's Day if I can get everything together. I'm working on a video for it right now, so if we can get
That's
it.
cool. So what do you kind of gain or enjoy the most out of kind of the solo stuff?
Um, I think, it just felt just because it was my own and there was nobody to answer to or run things by. That was just kind of it's a fun exercise to just
Yeah.
be like, well, how do I want this to sound?
Yeah.
And where do I want this to go? But a lot of times I missed having her there to kind of figure it out because sometimes you don't know where it should
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I really love this period of making music on my own and doing all the visuals. I think I did most of the videos. There were two or three videos I did with someone else, and then the rest of them I made myself. And I find that to be such a fun creative process. And I like learned to edit and make
Oh, that's
stuff on.
cool.
Yeah, so that was fun. Um, but I'm looking forward to doing stuff with Allison again because our relationship has really healed and changed over the past, since we broke up as a band.
Right.
We kind of, any like stuff that we had stirring up when we were working together, we kind of worked through when we didn't have that,
Yeah.
pressure of being in a band together. And we've become a lot closer. I mean, we've always been close, but now we're like really close. And so I'm just really curious to see how that
Yeah.
plays out when we come back
Yeah,
together.
absolutely. That's quite, I mean, that's a fascinating thing, isn't it? To have a different state of that relationship now to see what
Yeah,
comes out from it.
yeah,
Amazing.
I think it'll be
Um,
good.
in a lot of your lyrics, and I mean, this might be me reading into it, but I feel like there's a kind of like a leaning towards the esoteric. And obviously, made some beautiful tarot cards and some
Thanks.
different kind of bags and all sorts. So, is the esoteric important to you as a person and as a writer?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yes is the answer.
I mean, I've always been interested in like the spiritual, the magical, the, unknown. Um, and I'm really inspired by that. And it's just like a never-ending well of inspiration. And I think music in itself is very magical. Songwriting is very magical. You can become this channel for kind of a universal feeling, and it's amazing when you write something that resonates with people, and what a way to connect with other human beings. It's all very cool, and I feel very lucky to be able to do that for a living.
Yeah, yeah. So do you feel like because there's this concept of the muse, um,
Uh-huh.
and we all as writers have different relationships with it. And I suppose in the way you've spoken about you and Alison working earlier, I can sit down and write a song, but my favorite songs are the ones that seem to connect the most with people, the ones that seem to just be those like magical moments, which I suppose I would describe as the muse, where I'm playing a song, I'm playing it like I don't know, a little tune, and then it all just comes like the chords and the melodies, and
Hmm.
it floats in, and it doesn't feel like you're doing that much other than sort of like you said, channeling. What's your
Yeah.
relation? Do you believe in the muse? And if so, what's your relationship with your muse?
Yeah, I believe that there is definitely something coming from some other place, whether you want to call
Okay.
it the muse or a higher power or God or magic, I think there's definitely a way to connect to that. And like you said, I love when it just like flows out of you so easily and it does feel like
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
But I also really appreciate when you have to work hard at it. Like I like when like there's a song that's like tricky and you're like, I can't get this. And then when you finally do get it, it's such a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's probably the muse too. It's just the muse taking you on a tougher
Different
journey.
journey, yeah, a tougher journey. Yeah, because there's lots to learn, isn't there, in terms of like patience sometimes, and
Mhm.
also giving up your idea of what you think is right.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
I'm in the band I'm in. We had this one track, and I was absolutely certain that that's the way it's going to be. And
Uh-huh.
Ava was absolutely certain it's going to be a different way. And it took me a long time to surrender the idea of where I thought this should go. And as soon
Yeah.
as I did that, this thing came out immediately. And it's probably
Wow.
one of the best things I've written or we've written because I let go. So sometimes the muse will take you on a little journey into sort of yourself to learn some lessons, right? About kind of different
Totally.
things.
Yeah, the suffering totally serves a purpose. Like it's not just there to make you suffer, I think.
Yeah.
Or, suffering's an extreme word, but like the discomfort sometimes
Yeah. Yeah.
teach you a lot.
So do you girls when if you've got a new song, do you obviously will play it to each other? Is there kind of like that thing of um trying to get a song past each other, like trying to kind of, get the blessing to go forward with it?
Yeah, we always want each other's approval, but it's so funny. I think that there has been like competition between us throughout our lives. And it's so, to this day, like when we sing each other's songs, we both are kind of like, like it.
Just cool and
Like that's
relaxed.
probably the highest compliment. Yeah, I it. And you're like, you really like it.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
There's still just a little bit of that. But I mean, I think Allison's an incredible songwriter, and
Great songwriter.
yeah, I know she appreciates my work too. So we both really respect each other in that way, but it is sometimes it does stir up the like, oh shit, she just wrote an amazing song.
Yeah, yeah,
I better step it up.
yeah. Well, that's that. It's like that John and Paul thing in the Beatles, isn't it? It's quite a good thing to have somebody to rub against sometimes, have a bit of friction, or
Totally.
even to have that slightly, ribbling rivalry, just to kind of push you
Yep.
further than before.
Totally.
Awesome. So I heard you in another interview because I've been trying to find a few little interviews on YouTube before speaking to you, and you mentioned on the third M creation that you experimented a little bit of ayahuasca, which is something that I've not done, but I'm up for doing at some point.
Okay.
How did that experience impact your songwriting? Well, how was that experience, and how did it impact your songwriting, do you think, if at all?
Yeah, my first experience was incredible. It was like absolutely beautiful. It took me on this journey to the outer realms of all possibilities. It was really mind-blowing.
Yeah,
Um, there was, some discomfort. There can be a lot of discomfort in it too. Like there can be purging and you feel like you have the flu and it lasts for 5 hours and you can kind of get lost in these little, worlds in your mind.
yeah,
Um, but overall, it was really mind-blowing. And I came out of it like, wow, I want to do this again. And then I did it again, and I went to like the depths of hell, and it was so hard. But even after that, I was like, this is just showing me it just reveals so much to you. It, you know, it's good for your brain. Like it helps you regrow, receptors
yeah,
for dopamine. Like
yeah,
if those have become damaged along throughout your life through, whatever, you can kind of get yourself back to a higher level of joy
yeah,
after doing this. Like a lot of drugs you do to feel that high or that joy within the experience. And this one can be really tough within the experience, but then afterwards you're like, holy, I can't, I don't want to cuss anyway.
that's the way.
Um,
It's fine. Yeah,
okay. Holy shit. This is, I feel better. Like I cleared stuff out of me and I feel, you know, stronger emotionally and physically. Like it can really be amazing in that way.
wow,
I don't know how it directly changed my songwriting, but I think it just helped me grow as a person. And
yeah,
so it probably just shifted my songwriting a little bit.
sure. Was that
I think,
guided? Were you guided when you were doing that? Was with
oh yeah, you never want to do it. You would never want to do it on your own, because it can be so intense. Like I sat with a legitimate shaman, and
awesome.
I ended up going to South America with him and doing a 10-day retreat, and where you did ayahuasca every day for a week, and
Wow.
yeah, which was really, really intense. And I don't even know if I recommend that, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad I did it, but it's very tough. So I don't know if I would, tell everybody to do that.
Necessarily recommend it. No, but it's very interesting, that kind of, I mean, I've read a lot of Carlos Castaneda and that kind
Mm,
of peyote stuff, and the
uh-huh.
inward. I mean, I get it from your. The reason I'm asking really is because I get it from your lyrics that there seems to be like an inward journeying, a wanderer in you, someone who's interested in self transformation and the
Yes.
process of that, and it comes out in your songs. So I think I guess that's why maybe along with the melody and how good the song is, but I was hearing you examine life and yourself, and I think that's a job of a songwriter in some ways, is to do that and then give it back to people to kind of so they can find themselves or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I hope so. I hope that's what it could do for people. But yeah, I'm extremely brave when it comes to inner journeys. I'm not as brave in like the physical world. Like I don't want to like risk my life ever, like bungee jumping or
No.
sky. Like I would never do anything like that, but I will
Yeah.
bungee jump into the depths of my psyche.
Yeah, I hear you. And I mean that's I think that's you can hear that in your work. And I think it's a good thing to do as a writer, isn't it, as a songwriter, to really explore your head and how your psyche works and go there to come back.
It's so interesting and fun and crazy. And yeah, if you can bring something back to share, that's
Yeah.
even better.
So tell me, what was the idea behind your tarot cards? Was that, I mean, obviously you're interested in esoteric. That was a, seems to have been a project which maybe just took over from songwriting for a bit and kind of give you something else to create with.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing it over time. Like I started it probably 8 years ago, and I just started for fun. I was like, oh, I'm just going to draw one tarot card, and I'm the type of person who never finishes projects, or I used to be,
Okay.
and this was kind of a turning point of,
That's a lot of cards, isn't it?
yeah, I did an 80 card deck, and
Wow.
yeah, that was kind of a turning point for me in like discipline. I'm gonna finish this deck.
Yeah.
And then when the pandemic came around, I that really gave me something to do. I was like, I'm gonna
Sure.
finish it. I'd done like, probably 25 cards over the years,
Okay.
just here and there. And then I really focused and finished it during the pandemic. And I didn't stop doing music. It wasn't like a redirection. It was just kind of like, music, nobody buys music anymore.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
It's free.
Yeah.
So I was like, what can I create, that I can put out there as it's for something, that people can buy, and it can keep my creative endeavors going.
Yeah.
And so that was another motivation to finish it, just to as a tool. It's almost like my merch now. I've got my
Yeah,
tarot deck,
absolutely.
and
Well, I
I
think
started a little.
it's good to have
Go ahead.
merchandise that reflects who you are as an artist,
Yeah.
and so
Mhm.
that's when I saw you'd done that. I was like, that's cool. That's a really cool thing. Different. That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
So, do you have a favorite tarot card?
I like the High Priestess. She's the one that I put on the cover. I have it right here because I was pulling card. I kind of paused on pulling cards because like when everything's going well in your life, you like
Yeah.
don't really reach out to stuff like this as much because you feel like you've got the answers. But just recently, I've been like kind of suffering over some stuff that I need to make decisions about, and I just did a little reading myself, and it was really really good actually. But the High Priestess is my favorite card. She's the cover girl of this deck. She's about like diving into the subconscious and dream world, and um, yeah, it's just I think that's a cool, mysterious, interesting card. It's my favorite.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I pulled out Temperance today, which was
Oh,
a good one for the day
uh-huh.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if when you were growing up, or if yeah, when you started out, what kind of songwriters were your influences when you first started? Who was the kind of who are the people that you were inspired by and sort of made you believe in yourself as a writer?
My dad introduced us to the Beatles really early, so they were a big inspiration, and I loved like their range, how they could write like a really fun pop song, they could write a weird song, they could write a sad song, and so that, to me, they like laid out the template of like you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Um, and Allison was very into Joni Mitchell, and I was, by proxy. I
Yeah.
don't think I would have like gotten that into her if Allison hadn't been playing her all the time around the house. She was obsessed, and at first I was like, I don't know if this is my favorite thing, and but then I really fell in love with a lot of her work. And then some more, we loved Fiona Apple when she came out, and Tracy Chapman, and the Indigo Girls, and Simon and Garfunkel. Um, we just had like a really rich,
Yeah.
musical situation happening in our house. So there's so much that we were exposed to, and we kind of pulled from a lot of different things.
But also like all those artists like so like melody led, right? Lots of
Yeah, totally.
super super great melodies.
Mhm.
Who's your favorite Beatle out of the four, if you can answer?
When I was a kid, I liked Ringo.
That's my daughter's favorite Beatle. Yeah,
The kids love Ringo.
yeah, they do. Yeah,
Um, I think I've favored all of them at a
yeah,
certain point in my life.
yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
to think of who my favorite might be right now. Probably John right now. I'm in a John moment.
Yeah, John's always been my favorite. I think just
Yeah,
yeah, just the universal kind of song really, and the kind of honesty and the
yeah.
fragility as well. A lot of the time, even though he's a tough
Hmm.
cookie, but the fragility.
Yeah,
So what about modern influences? Obviously Fiona Apple's still
still
making great
around.
albums,
Yeah.
but do you think there's anyone of modern or new kind of influences or writers that you hear that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Lana Del Rey, and
Yeah.
I got a chance to meet her. Um, at a friend of mine was managed by her manager, and I met her, and she knew me and the Pierces, and she was like, "Oh, I love your." She specifically said, "I love your choruses. You write great choruses," and I was just so touched that because I've been really inspired by her, and I was
Great.
really in touch to hear that maybe she was inspired by us.
Yeah,
So that was
she's one of my favorite writers as well. But when I was listening to you again, your solo stuff actually, and I thought of her and thought she must have listened to Cat, a lot because there's similar areas,
See, most
like
people say, yeah, you must have listened to Lana, but she told me that she did listen to us, so
yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's that's really interesting. And also she's kind of into the esoteric area as well. But she's a great artist, definitely a great
She's yeah,
artist.
incredible. She's really incredible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Is reading important for you as a songwriter?
Yes, but I can't read anymore because
Same.
my eyes are like shot from technology, and I'm always like I'm so busy now. I listen to books. I've
Okay.
gotten really into audiobooks, and I have a hard time sitting down with an actual book, and I find that really sad, but that's where I am in my life. But yeah, I'm constantly listening to audiobooks. I'm listening to Rick Rubin's book right
Oh,
now.
cool. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's
Great.
really inspiring.
Yeah, really inspiring.
But yeah, I do love to read and or listen.
Yeah. So in terms of like your production on your records, do you work with like the same producer? Do you come up with the kind of arrangement ideas, or do you sort of farm it out to a producer, or do you work together? Because there's some really great tones, and it's in the Pierces and it's in your solo work. So I was just interested to know, like, if that that kind of like distant guitar thing, which
Mhm.
feels slightly country, but it's kind of got that beautiful kind of atmospheres and things like that. Is that you playing
Yeah.
that, or producers, or how does that work?
No, I don't play an instrument. I write my songs in my head, and then I can like
Do
pick them
you?
out on a, you know, electronic instrument, but I generally like the soundscape is generally up to us and the producer.
Okay,
We kind of vocalize what we want as much as we can, and then, they try to find that for us. And, sometimes it's easy, sometimes they get it like immediately, and sometimes we're like, that's not it, that's not it, and you have to find it.
sure.
But we've worked with all different producers, and there's definitely stuff sounds that we favor or
Yeah,
lean towards.
yeah.
But yeah, that's probably like the hardest thing for me is like I'll write a song and I can't hear like some people can hear, like I know
Sure.
exactly how I want it to sound. And for me it's much more of a winding path, to get there,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
figuring it out along the way. Which is fun sometimes and hard sometimes.
yeah. It can be tough.
Yeah.
So when you say you write, are you literally like writing these melodies in your head? So you work them out on something afterwards, but they come to you, or you start just creating in your head. That's how it happens.
Yeah, I'll think of like a line, just a lyric idea, and then I kind of sometimes they come together. I'll just hear the line and the music at the same time, or the line and the melody, and then I kind of just build on that, and I sing it into my phone, and then I play it for Allison, and she'll pick it out on the guitar. Or sometimes I pick it out on an omnichord.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
an
yeah.
electronic auto harp. That's kind of the only instrument I can mess around with. Or sometimes the producer we're working out with will pick it out on piano, and we go from there.
That's really cool and very unique as well. I've spoken to some different people on the podcast, but I've not heard anyone come from that point of view where these songs are arriving in your head and just then working out afterwards.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess it's that thing where they obviously we've got phone recorders these days, but if I think John and Paul actually said that in the Beatles that the reason a lot of their songs were kind of so memorable is because they had to remember them because they're writing them in their heads, and that's
You know what? I went to a Vipassana, where you meditate. It's a silent retreat. You meditate for, hours and hours a day, and they don't allow you to have your phone or any writing materials or anything, or the one I went to didn't.
yeah,
And I thought of a song when I was in this meditation. And so the rest of the retreat, I was just singing. And it was my song "Go to Hell," which is like
great,
really wordy and
yeah,
funny that I came up with that one during a like
yeah,
spiritual
yeah, yeah.
meditation.
That's cool.
But the entire retreat, I was singing that song in my head. I didn't really like get all that I could have out of the retreat because I was like, I have to remember this song.
That's amazing. So you just
So
had
I
to just keep it going round and just
just
swim
kept
with
it
it.
going. Yeah, and it's a very wordy song, so
It is a
it's
wordy song.
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And would that be true of Love You More and We Are Stars and Kings and Believe as well? They come from that same thing.
Yep. A few of my songs have come in a dream. Like I just wake up with the melody and lyrics in my head and
Wow.
write it down. I used to have a little recorder, but now I do it all on my phone.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
Mhm.
And I was going to ask you if you have songwriting advice for people, or like any kind of through the process of songwriting, any kind of tips that you would give people if they're new to songwriting.
This isn't like a life-changing tip, but it's just like I find it a way to make the song a little more interesting and a little surprising. If you have a rhyme that's where it feels like the obvious rhyme is going to come second, reverse them.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it
like
does.
if you say the line and it's like, oh, I know what's going to come next because that's the obvious, like fire and desire or whatever, like just
Yeah,
reverse them. And it makes it a little more interesting.
that's a good
Um,
tip.
it's kind of funny,
I think
but
I
I
might have
do
to
that a
borrow
lot.
that.
I do that a lot. And I think just try to get out of your own way. Like I find, if you can just literally clear your head, try to even just imagine yourself as a channel or a funnel.
Yeah.
Like I think that kind of invites it in.
Yeah. So do you find that you will be just throughout the day, just melodies will come into your head? Is that a kind of daily thing?
I
That
don't know about
works.
every day, but yeah, there's hundreds of recordings on my phone, and sometimes I'm like, I have to go through all these and find the good ones, but I'll forget about them, and I go back through them, and I'll hear it. I'm like, I don't even remember writing that. That's cool. So then you really can have perspective and see what's good or not. If you let it sit for a while and go
Yeah.
back to it, you're
Do,
like,
do you-
oh, that one stands out.
Absolutely. So do you know when you've got a what you consider a great one or a good one? Do you instantly know as it's in your head, or does that is in the edit or the review of it?
I think, yeah, and there like when you go back and listen, then Like sometimes you'll think it's amazing and then it doesn't really pan out to be amazing. But I think if you let stuff sit for a minute and marinate and you can get away from it and have perspective and then come back and hear it, then you're like, oh yeah, that one. That's a good one.
That's cool. And so you said like a lot of words or lines arrive with these melodies. So is that kind of the general rule for you, or do you sit and kind of laboriously kind of fit them, or is that a kind of a mental exercise in your head as well that happens?
Yeah, sometimes it's sometimes just a lyric will come or an idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a good idea for a song, that thought. And then the work will come after. But yeah, like sometimes it all arrives.
And do you meditate?
I
Yeah.
try to, but I'm not very good at it. That's why I went to that Vipassana, and like I said, I was not very good at it there either. You're
This is
supposed to
so
input
there's no
your mind,
talking for
and
like 9 days. Did you say 9 or 10 days not
I think it
talking?
was 10 days, yeah. And
Yeah.
there was no talking, and I did have a couple of powerful meditation experiences within that retreat, but I really find it hard to stay disciplined and do it every day.
Yeah.
Um, my mother-in-law is a Reiki master, and she taught me Reiki. I don't know if are you familiar with
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you put your hands on certain parts of your body and you kind of meditate in that way. And I find that easier when there's like an action or
Yeah.
something to kind of follow a little bit. Um, but it's hard for me to shut my brain down. It's very active and excited and wants to think about things all the time. And so
Sure.
I mean, everybody's is, but
Yeah. It's hard to turn it off though, isn't it? It's this
yeah, yeah,
particularly with meditation, it can be tricky. So do songs sort of if you try to meditate. I mean, I do meditate most days,
you
but
do. That's great.
frankly, it's the kind of thing where I will get to a certain point and then a melody will start to happen, or a song will steal me away from being focused enough to
Yeah,
be present, you know.
yeah.
So a question that I ask everybody
Mhm.
is if you could have written any song in the kind of history of songwriting, what song would you have loved to have created or lived inside or had inside your head? What song would jump to mind? Which I know will be
Uh,
different from day to day, but
yeah, totally. What just came to my mind right now, because I was listening to it yesterday, was Suzanne by Leonard Cohen.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just love those lyrics. I think it's so beautiful and simple and
yeah.
incredible. Um, Fade Into You by Mazzy Star. I mean, there's so many, but I'll go with Suzanne.
I think the way he pronounces oranges on that song is particularly great as well.
Feed you tea and oranges
It's
at the
just that,
mall.
yeah, his
Yeah.
kind of his sort of just lilt, the way he says it is particularly kind of something that always stuck with me. That I'm reading his book actually, Beautiful Losers, at the moment, which is
Oh,
quite
oh, I'm gonna
something.
put that on my list.
Yeah, it's pretty
Hope it's on an audiobook.
yeah, it's of its time, but it's beautiful as well. There's a line in it actually about who am I to deny the universe? And when I was, because I've been reading it over the last couple of weeks whilst sort of researching and listening to you, I was like, that's the kind of cat line. Who am I to deny
Oh
the
my gosh,
universe?
thank
That's
you.
a kind of, a kind of line. So we've got possibly another the fourth Pierces album then at some point ahead of us sometime.
Maybe the fifth?
Is it the fifth?
I don't even know.
Am
I'm
I
so sleep deprived. Let
I'm
me
missing
see.
an album. But then
You
if
might
it's
be missing the first album, but you can probably skip that one.
okay. So we've got a new one possibly on the horizon after babies have kind of settled down with sleep and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We're talking about it. We've got some ideas, and um, yeah, we'll see.
Is it the case that whoever sings the song wrote the song?
For the most part, there's been a couple songs that we wrote together that we like would fight about who was gonna sing or who's gonna sing lead on it. And I think there's one song that I wrote that she ended up singing. Well, actually, a song that I wrote, or no, I co-wrote it with her that ended up on her album. Yeah, but mostly if we write it, we sing it. We get very possessive of the songs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Kat, thank you so much for being my guest today. And
Thank you. It was so lovely.
yeah, really good to talk to you about your work and process and everything. And as I said, I'm a huge fan, so I'm looking forward to kind
Aw.
of whatever you put out next. And
Oh, thank you so much.
great. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.